Another thing from both your books and also from your writing, just shifting focus a little bit, is this notion that you've advocated that people like the folks here should not focus on having a life plan. They should focus on a life philosophy. That's what I understand. And so my question really has to do with your life philosophy. You have advocated for folks here to really not have a life plan because, as you've already pointed out today, things happen that you could have never imagined, like the example you just gave. But tell us a little bit, if you would, about your life philosophy.
Well, I'll try to make this fast. There's a difference between your personal philosophy and your professional philosophy. When it comes to personal philosophy, I have now put on seminars for high school students, for college students, for graduate students, where I say in 30 minutes or 1 hour, usually takes about an hour, you will have listed the most important things in your life in priority order. Because it's a process I went through. And of course, people don't think you can do that. And so I tell them they're 30 years old, they have $1 million, what would they trade the entire million for? They can't divide it up. They can't buy a car and a house and this and that. And you know what? Most of the time they cannot think of anything that they would trade an entire $1 million for. So then I start with the scenarios. You have you have just been given a diagnosis of a terminal illness. Would you be willing to give up $1 million in order to get a normal life expectancy? Of course, they say. I mean, I just didn't think of that. Well, I said, what you've determined is that health is more important than money for you. So put that on the list. Number two, I say, your child has been kidnapped, and for $1 million, you can get your child back. Would you do it? And there's always a little bit of embarrassment as someone tries to make light of the situation by saying, which child, you know, that sort of thing. But they come down to, of course they would. I said, okay, so a relationship has turned out to be more important than money. Then I start bargaining, what if you can't get a normal life expectancy, but you can get 20 years? Would you do it? Yes, 10 years. Well, you get to a point where they wouldn't do it. Why? They'd rather leave $1 million for their wife or children than to have another 6 months or 12 months or 18 months of life. So again, I said, you put a relationship above your own health, above money. Then I tell them, it wasn't your fault, but you just got a life sentence in prison. And would you rather be in prison as a millionaire or be out and know you'll be poor the rest of your life? And of course, freedom turns out to be more important. So I keep going. And I say you have a gift for this or that, but you can't express it unless you give up the $1 million. Would you do it? One of the most important answers I got was from a 16-year-old boy who said, I would be willing to be poor for my entire life if I could come up with a vaccine for AIDS. And I said, you've got it. I mean, you've understood the process. So now you have a personal philosophy of what are the things important. If they come up with 7 things, I'll say the rules have just changed. You can only have 6. Which one do you drop off? And then 5 and 4. And so, in fact, at the end of the hour, they have their list in priority order. Then having that, you can apply it professionally. That you can't predict the opportunities that you will have, but you now have this philosophy that allows you to make decisions at each crossroad. And so that's how you decide. But if you want to do important things, work on important problems. That's what it comes down to.